Bucko, mighty Bucko, hello and welcome once more to Mighty Bucko. It has been announced, as you know, that the Queen Elizabeth II has died. That's what they tell us. Now, to begin with, I'm going to be asking some questions. And it's very hard to swim against the tide. It's very hard to go against the grain. And it's very hard to question things that people don't question. There will be more openness for this talk amongst truthers, but people in the world really who are asleep spiritually, they're asleep in so many ways dull, they will not fathom any of what I'm saying, and not only that, they'll think I'm mad. But that's okay. I'm nailing my colours to the mast. Now, first of all, I'd like to say I'm not here to offend any royalists. I'm not here to speak ill of Queen Elizabeth II. I'm asking questions. I was never a member of any political party. I've probably voted for most of them, but I'm not voting in the future, unless there's a huge change of things. But I won't be voting. Now, someone my age and older will only ever have known Elizabeth on the throne. She's always been in the background. And although I've never really followed things, bits and pieces, you know, the telly's on or you watch a bit of this and that. But I've known many royalists in that sense who get caught up in it and, you know, refer to them all by their first names and, they're really entrenched in it and excited by it. So I must have seen the Queen probably 3 to 4 times in and around Leicester, seen her or her doubles. So, yeah, I've grown up. They've always been there. I've got on with my life. They've got on with theirs. Now, as a monarch, I'm well aware that publicly she has been an example in many ways. No reproaches. You can disagree with her on the fact that she, opens up other religious buildings and goes in there and fraternises as the defender of the faith, so-called title of the Church of England. You can disagree with these things, but by and large, she's sort of been aloof, like one of the old monarchs, Victoria, not getting caught up in stupid things, chat shows and nonsense and this and that. She's aloof from it. And so in that sense, there's respect for her. What she were like in private, the public image, fine. What she were like in real life when the doors were shut is anybody's guess. Yours as well as mine. Anyway, it was announced on the 8th, which was a Thursday of September the 9th, 2022, that she died. Now, on that day. Now, my first point is, I do not believe, personally speaking, she died on that day. I don't flatly believe it. But first, let's look at the numbers. I won't keep you long on this, but I'm going to look through the numbers and we'll begin, just to refresh our minds, with Philip, the Duke of Edinburgh, her husband. So let's go back and refresh ourselves. Right, on April the 9th, 2021, it's announced around 12 midday that Prince Philip is dead. They say he died around 6 in the morning. So 6 in the morning, 6. It's announced at 12, 2 times 6, so you got 666. They say he was 99 years old, so that's 2 inverted 6s, and he died on the 9th. And there's another inverted 6. So 3 inverted 6s, as well as the other 6s, 666. Also, from the calendar of 2021, we have 99 days exactly to when he died. Now, do you honestly believe he died on the day they said? That was the day they wanted to announce he died. But whether he did or not is another matter altogether. Now we come to the Queen. All right, let's look at her numbers. It's announced that she dies on the 8th of the 9th, 2022. Right. She's 96 years old. 9 inverted and a 6. Died on the 9th. And they report it at 6:30 in the evening. Don't count the 0. 6, 3, 3 6s. Right, 8th of the 9th, 2020. So just follow me a minute. 8, add 9, add 20, add 22 comes to 59. Now add them individually. 8 plus 9 plus 2 plus 2 plus 2 comes to 23. 23 from 59 is 36. 3 6s, 666. And from the 11th of March 2020, when the Rona Bologna kicked off and was by the WHO on the 11th of March, 2020, declared to be endemic, declared officially, is exactly, to the death of the Queen, is exactly 911 days. 9/11. Yeah? So, do you believe she died on that date? I believe this is the date they want to announce it on. I don't believe she died on that date any more than Prince Philip died on his date of the 9th of April 2021. I don't flatly believe it. Now, of course, if she didn't die on that date, then when did she die? That's another matter altogether, isn't it? Was it days? Was it weeks before? And some have even suggested years. Okay. On the 11th, a few days later. Well, first of all, let's just say, on the day at about 4:30 in the afternoon, I'm sitting in the living room with Janie, and Janie's mum has rang, and it's on conference, right? And she's saying, talking about it from what she's hearing on the news, she's saying, oh yeah, the Queen's family are coming, she's very ill, the doctors are gathered around, and most people, like ourselves, would probably think they'd announce it the next day. And then at 6:30, they announce she's dead. Now, for about 3 hours, they'd not said no. They said the letter, not only people in Britain being misled in thinking she was alive, when actual point of fact she's dead, according to them. 3 hours, 2 to 3 hours. Being misled, if not willfully lied to. Now, I don't believe it's sloppiness. And notice, with Prince Philip, they say he died at 6 in the morning, but never announced it till 12, which is 6 hours. Why? Look, I know there's certain protocol, but come on. You know, when the Twin Towers came down, I don't think they were messing around. Were they? With leaving it 6 hours before you found out. Or, no, they were telling you pretty quick. How much time does it take from the medical doctor over the Queen, if she's dead and died on that, to look up and say Her Majesty is dead, to clock it the time, and for the official, the main authoritative person within their workplace, you know, the palace, wherever they are, castle, wherever, to communicate immediately that everyone knows. How much time does it take? Yet we're kept misled and in the dark. Now, depending on what you believe really comes down to what extent do you believe you are being told the truth by the mainstream media? After what's happened to us since 2020 with the Bologna and all that, and everything that's gone along, how can we honestly believe anything they tell us? And I don't. I personally don't. And I'm sure there's many who don't either. They have grave concerns of everything that they put out. Yes, there's always truth mixed in. There has to be, for it to be believed. But what are they saying? So, I didn't believe it was on that day. Now, on the 11th, on the Sunday, I was at Stand in the Park with Phil. And we decided to go to Spoons, Weatherspoons, afterwards to have a jar and a chat. So we did. And in there, they got the big screens up. So we're sitting there and they got in Aberdeenshire, the hearse with the coffin in the back, going through the motorway. One side is being closed down. They're speeding along through Aberdeenshire with a procession of all those security and one thing and another that follow it. And I'm thinking to myself and speaking to Phil, look, do you really believe she's in the back of that hearse? Do you think she's actually in there? And it makes you think, to ask yourself that question. Was her body actually in that coffin? Now, let me illustrate 2 true stories that happened to me many years back in Leicester. Right, the first one, a friend, an older gentleman called Bert Duffy, had died. And I'd gone to pay my respects in the funeral parlour. They had different rooms and he was laid out in one of them. So I asked at the reception and they said room such and such. So I went in there and it was the wrong room. Right? They had a young man who had died in a motorbike accident and his head was smashed in on that side. And he was there, the corpse, and the family were gathered around and making great lamentation and mourning with great sadness, condolences even now to them on that. And I quietly, respectfully backed slowly out of the room and went to see the correct room where my friend Bert was. there was a cross. I thought I was going into the room for Bert, but I was met by a surprise, a different person altogether. The second one, I'm on Daventry Market, fruit and veg. We were in the old car park at the bottom of the high street, and the council had put up the stalls, and we had a big fruit and veg one. People queue up all day long, and anyway, this hearse pulls up, and the man who works for that company in his funeral attire, I serve him, and he wanted a sack of spuds. So we go down to the pallet where the sacks of spuds are, and he picks what he wants, and he opens the back of the hearse, and I put it down in his in the back of his hearse. Now, there wasn't a coffin in it at the time, but I always remember, and it always stuck in my mind, that this sack of spuds was, placed down in his, and off he went with the sack of spuds in the back of the hearse. Now, if there'd have been a coffin in it, and it'd have asked me to put the sack of spuds in the coffin, well, if that's where he wanted it, I'd have thought it most highly peculiar. I was only a youngish man at the time, and I wouldn't have argued with him if that's what he wanted to do, but it would have been a bit peculiar, wouldn't it? Oh, dear me. So, I'm thinking, as that coffin is whirling through Aberdeenshire, is she really in there? And of course, if she's not, and she died days, weeks, months, or as some have said, years, then where is the body? Is it in a deep freeze to be brought out? Because you see, look, let's say for instance, and these are only questions, I'm only surmising. I'm not categorically stating anything in that sense. I'm asking questions that people don't ask and don't think, because Bucko is thinking outside the box. Well then, where would the body be kept? In a deep freezer? You see, they've wanted to announce it at this time. Why? Because it fits in with their schedule. They've planned a long time. This cabal of evil, these powerful bloodline families, this darkness, it's been planned many years in advance to the day, 2020, the Rona Bologna, March. Marking something, and then as the years ticked on, and then the Crimea, UK reign, and the war with the Ruskies, and Putin put in, and the hike in prices and fuel, and then the next big thing, the death of the Queen. They want it on this date. Don't you see it? They want it on that date, regardless if she died in. Who knows when? How many years back? Could be. Is she quietly buried somewhere that they've discussed, that she's happy with? Because you see, it has been announced, hasn't it? It's been projected that it may be one of the most watched events in human history. So are you ready for a big psyop? A psychological operation? Are you ready for it? That they're going to pull? Because will they miss an opportunity like this? Say, for instance, she's not in that coffin. Say, for instance, just say, for instance, somebody else is in the coffin. Nah, Booker, they wouldn't do. Wouldn't they? If a ritual's being done with all the incantations and spells, and they're all at it, going at it, beguilement, and if there's somebody sinister in that coffin, I'm just making a suggestion. I'm not saying it's the case. I'm just putting it out there. Say it was someone else. Let's just say it. Just say it was Mr. Crowley. Oh, but he's dead and gone long. Yeah, but you don't know what happened to the body. Yeah, if they've kept it for a long time. Or, failing that, how else about that then, guys and girls? No, they wouldn't. Yeah, but can you imagine millions of Britons queuing up? Some, it's been said, 30-odd hours to stand behind, just to wait in line, hour upon hour, to shuffle past. And it was, how's about that, guys and girl? I'm not saying it is. But say it was. And with the spells and the power and the ritual, what darkness would that bring into the world, upon the minds of the people, that they've been blatant? What would give them great pleasure to mock the people? These dark occultists. Things like that. I think so. You may disagree. You may think it's her in that coffin. It could be. But say it's not. And of course, the other alternative is she dead at all? Have they quietly retired? I say they, because, and Philip as well. Anything's possible. Quietly retired somewhere, looked after, on hand and foot with her feet up, and that's it. They've done the bit. Can anyone say 100% that isn't the case either? Some are looking bewildered at me now, aren't they? I'm asking questions. I'm not 100% certain she's in that coffin. I wouldn't be surprised if she wasn't. So, what's your thoughts, Booker, then, in summing up? Okay, first, I don't believe she died on that day. Second, I believe it is announced on that day because it's in their agenda to announce it. And third, it marks something that's coming. And I'm somewhat concerned if they're going to throw a major disaster on us. Don't be frightened. Don't be fearful. But be watchful. Don't be surprised at anything from man-made, comets coming in. Really, they're behind it, making out things, explosions, tsunamis, things engineered by the evil cabal, in other words. Don't be surprised at any of it if these disasters will follow on after that. I hope not. I hope not. Now, regarding the royals as such, myself, I've said previously, I think it's an institution that's lost its way and it's gone, to be honest. As for Charles and all that nonsense about the ink pen, you remember that? Signing the documents and it's spilling. He gets all seven pens again. Yeah, now look, they allowed that to be shown. Isn't it a bit like Biden? These dumb things. If that's already gone forth to be seen by the world, before he's even crowned, and it carries on like that, are they doing this on purpose to make, that it soon be done away with and it's of no value now anyway? We'll see. So let's have a think. Biblically, I just want to finish reading. We know in the Bible that Jesus is the King of Kings and the Lord of Lords. The only true potentate in that sense. The problem we have here is this. You've got man who is sinful and fallen, and they become corrupted with power. In the old days, all the nations had their kings, queens and kings, who fought their battles, but they held absolute power. Now we've got a figurehead, but they still get huge amounts of money. God's initial plan, when he picked Israel, Jewish people, they had no king to begin with. And they had various prophets and God watched over them. But the point is this, they wanted a king and they came to Samuel. And give us a king so we can be like the nations. And he says, well, Samuel, they've not rejected you, they've rejected me. They want a king. And so he says, tell them then what's going to happen when he comes and reigns over them. He says, look, okay, this will be the manner of the king that shall reign over you. He's going to take your sons and appoint them for himself, for his chariots, to be for his horsemen, to run before the chariots. He'll appoint him captains over thousands, captains over 50s. He'll set them up to ear his ground and to reap his harvest and to make his instruments of war and instruments of his chariots. And he's going to take your daughters to be confectionaries and cooks and to be bakers. And he's going to take your fields and he's going to take your vineyards and he's going to take your olive yards and the best of them. And he's going to give these to his servants and he will take the 10th. It's going to cost you. You want this? Yeah, you want it? He's going to take all those things, your vineyards, he's going to give it to his officers and his servants. He'll take your men servants, your maid servants, your goodliest men, horses, asses, all these things, and put them to work. He's going to take the 10th of your sheep, and you shall be his servants. And you shall cry out in that day because of your king, which you have chosen. And in that day I won't listen to you. Nevertheless, the people refused to obey the voice of Samuel, and they said, no, but we will have a king reign over us, that we may be like all the nations, and that the king may go before us and judge us, and go out before us and fight our battles. And Samuel heard all the words of the people, and he rehearsed them in the ears of the Lord. And the Lord said to Samuel, hearken unto their voice, and make them a king. And Samuel said unto the men of Israel, go ye every man into his city. And they got the king, which was Saul, and what a mess he made of everything. But then they got a nice king in David. But the initial plan is no. Don't be like all them. We'll do it differently. Anyway. Yeah. So, some things, deep things to think upon. The funeral will be on the 19th. I won't be getting caught up in any of that or standing for hours in line. And I trust if you've got your head screwed on, you won't either. And for the royalists who believe every word that's said, or at least some of it, peace be with you as well. So, be seeing you.